Hello, hello. Okay, I wanted to hop on here. I just did my breathwork workshop in my Mom Life Mastery Collective. If you are not in there, I do not know what you are doing. It is the most incredible thing. I do 2 breathwork workshops in there every single month. Only this month we're doing 3 because there's 5 weeks, and it just fell that the first one landed at the very beginning, so I just decided to throw in a little bonus. So if you're not in there, come and join the Mom Life Mastery Collective because it's incredible. We also do a group life coaching session every single month in there, but I wanted to hop on here because the topic in there today was so good. So sometimes I hop on these calls and I'm like, please let whatever needs to come through me, come through me, whatever comes up, allow me to be able to offer guidance. And there were a few things that hit today. And I think that this is something that we as women struggle with a lot. And that is one, being unapologetic, and two, over explaining ourselves. And so I did want to pop on and just kind of give a little step by step on how to show up as ourselves unapologetically and what it's going to feel like. Because as we start to show up as ourselves, as we start to set boundaries in place, we're probably going to trigger other people. And the thing is, when we trigger other people, if you're like me, I feel like a lot of us are like this. A lot of my clients are similar, but when we upset other people by putting a boundary in place, we then turn around and try to fix it, right? So I have spent a lot of years in self-abandonment, abandoning myself to keep other people happy in so many situations. And that is something that I've really been working on with my therapist the past several months. I have a lot of trauma in my past. And so it's layered, right? It's like an onion. We got to peel back the layers at a time. And every now and then I'll go to therapy and she's like, okay, well, we just ripped an abscess wide open and now we get to heal. And as we start to heal, that is when we start to notice that we got to put these boundaries in place. But as we start to put the boundaries in place, then people around us are getting upset. And our natural tendency is to try to pick up those pieces and try to smooth it over. And when we are deciding to step into our power, one, and two, be unapologetic about it, this is kind of what it feels like. I'm going to give you the steps here just so that you have a practical, tangible takeaway from this. But the first one is, let's just say you're making a decision of something you want to do differently in your life. And you're like, oh, I know that my mom's probably not going to agree with this, or she's not going to like it, or she's going to have some words about it. And I'm afraid it's going to come up. So let's just say, okay, how do we want to respond to this situation? How would the highest version of you respond to this situation? And let's just say it would be putting a boundary in place. Like, hey, I'm actually not available to have this conversation with you right now. This is step one, naming this boundary, right? I'm not available to have this conversation with you right now. Maybe we can have it another time. Do you want to set a time and date, or do you just want to sit with this for a second, right? However you want that to go, whatever words feel good coming out of your mouth. But this is where we draw the line. Hey, I'm actually not available to have this conversation in this present moment. Thank you. That's it. And that's where the period is in the sentence, right? And a lot of times, the other person, let's just say, maybe gets upset and they're like, well, but we need to talk about this now, or whatever it is, right? Your body is going to feel all sorts of discomfort and uncomfy emotions. And this is the really cool step, because this is where we do not pick up the pieces. We just continue to sit. And if they keep coming at us, it's like, I don't think you're understanding me, or maybe you're not hearing me correctly. I will not be having this conversation. If you keep coming at me, I'm going to choose to walk away. Right? That is a very firm boundary. You do not need to over-explain it. You do not need to try to smooth things over by apologizing to them, by saying, I am so sorry. That is not yours to carry. This is something that is really cool when kind of sucks, and it's really cool, right? Because we hate being triggered because we know that's where our work begins. But you're also giving them an opportunity to see where their work begins. And so when you put that boundary in place, the only people that it's really going to bother are those who benefited by you having none. And so if suddenly they're now activated and they're triggered and they're like coming at you pissed off, that is not your job to pick that backpack up and put all those stones back in it. You just laid the stones out. I am not available for this. This is where I draw the line to protect my own inner peace. And you are now continuing to violate the boundary that I just spoke to you. And so now a lot of people don't recognize it as this opportunity to look at where their work begins, right? Some do, some don't. But in our world, at least the world that I've lived in for a while, this is where I notice that, okay, oh, yeah, that activated me. I felt something from that. That triggered me. I'm going to respect their boundary. And now I'm going to go home and I'm going to like figure out why that brought something up. But your family might not be that way, right? Like, especially if they're older, they're kind of set in their ways. Like, I just feel like it's like a generational thing if they haven't been doing the work, right? The therapy, maybe some inner work, whatever it may be. Then they're going to be feeling that stuff and they're not going to be like, oh, this is the perfect opportunity for me to look within myself and figure out why this is making me mad, because they are not responding from their highest self. They're responding from a part of them that was wounded in the past and it hasn't healed. And so that is why they don't recognize that, for one, and they keep coming at you. And so your only job is to protect your inner peace and to just sit with that uncomfy emotion, not picking up the pieces and allowing them to feel what they need to feel to process it through, right? Okay? And then the last step number 3, is just knowing that whatever boundary you put into place in your life, you're probably going to have to remind them several times. So don't think that when you put a boundary in place, it's going to go perfectly this first time. You're going to have to remind them a few times. So I want you to think of them as a toddler. And sometimes our kids forget, right? We'll like tell our kids to do something and then we have to ask them like 5 times. It's going to be the same situation here. And then you get to decide to respond differently if they continue to violate. I usually give people like 3 strikes and you're out sort of thing, because I know it's not going to be perfect. But if by like the 5th, 6th, 7th time you're like, holy shit, would you just like get it already? It's like, then you get to decide, okay, I'm going to turn and walk away now. Or I'm not going to show up to this party because of this, or I'm not coming over to your house because of this, or I'm no longer available to do this. Whatever it is, we can never control another person, but we can control ourselves. And when you know why you are doing what you are doing, that is when the guilt starts to fade away. And I want you to just think about like putting boundaries in place, stepping into your most empowered self is uncomfortable. It's not familiar to our brains. It might even feel unsafe to your nervous system. This is why I do a ton of breath work. This is why I do breath work in my membership, because it's finding that nervous system regulation as we start to allow ourselves to feel these uncomfortable emotions. It is so freaking hard to sit there and be like, they're having their moment and you not having to do anything about it and you choosing not to do anything about it. It's really hard. I'm not even going to say that that's easy, but the more you allow yourself to feel, the more familiar that will become, and you'll be able to set more and more and more boundaries that are going to protect your inner peace. And that's when it gets really cool, because a lot of times people in general, we just have like an underfilling problem. And that's why we don't get where we want to go, because it's like, oh, well, I'm going to feel embarrassment in that, or, oh, that's going to feel really uncomfortable. That's not safe. Like, I don't feel good doing that, right? But when we start to allow ourselves to understand our why, it's just like working that muscle. It's like going to the gym. You're not going to walk into the gym once and walk out with a 6-pack. It takes consistent action, right? And so that's when that muscle gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And so finally, setting boundaries is going to start to feel really good to you. And you are going to be able to be more and more of who you are and who you desire to be. And you're going to experience more of a feeling of inner peace, because 1, you are now showing up unapologetically as you. 2, you are not over explaining yourself. And 3, it's because you have that deep inner knowing to your very core of who you are. And if you know you're a good person, then it doesn't matter if other people are talking bad about you, right? Because you know who you are and you know that you are not that. And sure, it stings a little, but you don't have to feel like you need to like call up that other person and be like, hey, actually, this isn't the case. Like, I'm really not a bad person. Like, and try to tell your story. You just kind of let it go. Like, it doesn't take up that mental space in your mind anymore. And it's not taking up that emotional space in your body. So I want you to just like really think about that. So I want you to sit down today and just think about like, what boundaries do you need to put in place in your life? Or what situations are you worried might come up? Choose now, while you are not activated, how you want to respond to that, so that when the time does come, you are able to remain neutral and respond in the way that you pre-decided. Like, pre-deciding how you want to show up to things is so powerful. So this is how you begin stepping into your most empowered self and feeling really good and creating a life with less guilt, less shame, and just really showing up more as you and being unapologetic about it. And that's really cool. And how would that feel for you if you were doing that? So I just wanted to share that with you today. And if you want more of this, if you want more breath work, if you want more learning how to step into your most empowered self, come join the Mom Life Mastery Collective. I would love to have you in there. Drop collective below and I'll send you the link to register. But this is what we do. We learn how to show up as our most empowered selves. We learn how to set powerful boundaries. We learn how to step into who we want to be. And we need more people who do that in the world. So thank you so much for being here. Come and join us. I will talk to you next time.